All right, guys, welcome back to a new episode of the VSP podcast. Today we're going to talk about something a little bit different, my HYROX experience. I did it, back in May. I did the New York City one. There was a lot of ups and downs, learned some new things. This was my first one, so I'm excited to share with you my experiences, how I trained, some of my recovery tips, and things of that nature. So let's jump in. The first thing I'm going to tell you about is that the HYROX is very, very hard. I was lucky enough or unlucky enough to do the pro individual. I decided I wanted to do that one just to kind of push myself. Some of you guys may have seen I'm doing a really hard workout every month, so I decided to make that my really hard workout. It was certainly a challenge, something that I trained for, and I was grateful to certainly finish. Did it go exactly how I expected it to? Absolutely not. For those of you who don't know, the HYROX is broken down this way. Everything is started off with a 1K run, and then there's 8 stations. So again, it's 8 kilometers of running. Each station starts off with a 1K run. The first station is going to be a 1,000-meter ski erg. Then it is a 50-meter sled push, 50-meter sled pull, 80-meter burpee broad jumps, 1,000-meter row. Then it is 200 meters farmer carry, 100-meter walking lunges, and then you finish it up with 100 wall balls. So it's a lot of volume. Obviously, the running in itself, fatigues you, but each station offers different demands, right? You need to be super versatile and prepared for a multitude of stimuli. And that's what I think makes HYROX so interesting and fun to train for, because you get to sink your teeth into so many different aspects of training. A lot of people compare it to CrossFit, although yes, it is the new CrossFit, but it's not CrossFit at all, right? Where CrossFit was higher level type movements, in gymnastics and weightlifting and things of that nature. HYROX anyone can kind of do, right? At whatever level, pace, solo or with a partner, or teams, however they want to do it. And that's what I think makes it so awesome. But it does share the same camaraderie, the culture that CrossFit has. And that's why I've been pushing, my friends, my family, my clients here to do it, because it gives you something to train for, that motivation that everyone kind of needs sometimes, right? It's always fun to train for a half marathon or a 5K or a triathlon on some people. The HYROX is the same thing. So it just gives you some direction. My race day didn't quite go as expected, as I mentioned. I was shooting to finish under 90 minutes. I finished in an hour 50, not really where I wanted to be. Unfortunately, I experienced a lot of cramping and some high levels of fatigue that I didn't expect, that I didn't experience during some of my simulations. So it was definitely a big learning experience. Obviously, it was a bit of a hotter day. The adrenaline was pumping. Maybe I moved a little bit too quickly in the beginning, and that came back to bite me. But unfortunately, on my fourth run, I cramped in both my calves. So it altered, the way I was running, slowed me down. And it honestly, after the run, I'm at my final station of the wall balls. I was like, I got to do this again. I needed redemption. So I'm really excited to get after it again. At some point, I was looking at doing maybe doubles with my wife in December in Nashville. But I'll definitely do another pro individual the beginning of the season next year. So I'm definitely excited about that. But I'm happy with my training. I trained consistently for about 4 months, and I felt prepared, right? I did simulations that I was finishing right around where I wanted to. I broke it up this way where, my day one was going to be more of a strength day, because, the running definitely did beat me up a little bit. It's a lot of running, which I'm not used to. So day one would be more of a strength day. I would base it around some of my weaknesses, right? The sled push and pull is difficult for most people, especially with the pro weights. I wanted to make sure I was prepared for that. So I worked on a lot of, building up my true strength in order to complete those reps. Day 2 was going to be, some quicker, 1Ks or faster, trying to stay below that 5-minute pace, because that was going to be my goal, is, low 5s throughout the whole race. Is, like a 5:15 pace was the goal. Then my day 3 was another strength day, right? Where maybe day 1 I was focusing more on sled push, where day 3 I was focusing more on sled pull. Day 4 was a zone 2, low CNS just get some miles underneath me, maybe about 30 to 45 minute run, depending on where I was at my program. Day 5 was a HYROX sim of some sort, right? Sometimes it was by the day how I felt, or sometimes I was like, you know what, I'm gonna do a half sim, or I'm gonna do a full sim. I tried to lay it out where I wasn't gonna crush my CNS week by week, because I knew it was more of a marathon since I was training for 4 months. But you had to go through it. And then, over the weekend, I would just try to get in, some more zone 2 training, some stretching, recovery, things of that nature. I tried holding myself to a specific plan, but I also gave myself some flexibility, right? I'm 32 now. It's not like I'm 25. So you got to be a little bit smarter in your training and managing those fatigue levels, which I would tell anyone, like, just because it says 3 sets of 5 doesn't mean you do 3 sets of 5. Because if you feel, like garbage that one day, you got to listen to your body and make sure that you adapt, especially, for HYROX training. If I were to change anything, I would add in some more run days, right? For me, like, I was fortunately strong enough to handle, all the weights of the pro, but the running, right? I don't know if it was because of my lack of capacity that led to the cramping, both my calves and eventually my left quad once I got to the lunges, which was hell. I had 2 friends with me, and they couldn't even watch because I was in a lot of pain, but got through it, didn't put the sandbag down. But I would run more, right? That's what I would try to increase the volume, over a smart time, right? Give myself, same thing, I gave myself 4 months to train for. I'd give myself another 4 months or more, right? Because right now I'm training for a half marathon, which I think will help me for my next HYROX. But I'd give myself a lot of time, right? Slowly build up, earn the right to do faster runs, really build up that mileage so my body can be prepared for, to go faster, right? That's always going to be the goal. It's not like there's anything that much, that I would change in terms of like the strength training. Just make sure that I'm working on some of the little things, right? Obviously my feet, I have super stiff calves. I would make sure that I would be addressing those a little bit more, working on, getting into better ranges of motion in my squats. That would hopefully help me with the wall balls. But overall, I'm pretty happy with my training. And, if you're interested in training or doing a program that I've produced, you certainly reach out, and I'm happy to share some information with you. One of the final parts I'll talk about is nutrition. I thought I did enough, but I didn't, right? Like, I ate a sufficient amount of calories. I carb loaded, to what I think is carb loading, because I didn't want to overdo it. The days leading up to it, I was drinking over 100 ounces of water a day, pretty much every day. I drank electrolytes. I did everything that you could be doing. So, I would try to increase that by another 15% or so leading up to the race to make sure that, I would prevent that from ever happening again, because it sucks. But, for the most part, I would make sure that you have a plan. Don't undereat, right? Because that's only going to hurt you. I would make sure that you're aware of roughly how many calories and macronutrients you are taking in a day, right? Track those, write those down, journal them, so you can make decisions along the way. Because if you enter like a sim on a Friday and you feel malnourished and tired and fatigued, that means you did not properly fuel. So you got to make sure that your tracking will help, inform you and making educated decisions with your nutrition moving forward. But, it's a very fun way of training, right? I would just make sure that you are well prepared. You're surrounded by like-minded individuals that want to do the HYROX too, because that always makes it easier. And, just sign up for that HYROX. If you want to train, we're right here in Greenlawn on Long Island. We'd be happy to have you. I have all the equipment that you would ever need. We have outside running space, which is awesome. Everything you need in order to do a HYROX. So I appreciate you guys for tuning in to another podcast. I'm hoping to give a little bit more information as we move forward about the HYROX, that I think is something that's constantly growing, and it's a lot of fun. So see you guys next time.